when you're in business, you're on all the time.
Yeah.
And, I remember one of my teachers, she was, her career as a nurse, and then she became one of my teachers. And she's like, how did you learn how to do everything? I'm like, I didn't. You learn as you go. But every job prepares you for the next. Everything relates to everything, you know? And you just learn as you go. You got to be comfortable with not knowing. But that's really, I think, life anyway. Learning to be comfortable with not knowing. And trusting yourself, really. Trusting, hey, I've done this, this, and this. I can do this as well. You have to be your own cheerleader.
Hello, welcome to F5 Collective Presents Women in Business. This is our first inaugural show. I'm so excited. My name is Linda Morris. I am your hostess, whatever it is. And I'm so excited because our first guest is Manaz, and dear friend and incredible yoga instructor with her own yoga studio here in Los Angeles County. It's in Thousand Oaks, but she does virtual, she does personal, private. The beauty of Manaz is that she started somewhere else and then followed her passion. This is very exciting to be able to share with all of you. And Manaz, welcome. I'm so glad that you're with us today and you're our first one.
I'm so privileged and honored. Thank you so much, Linda. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I think back to how we met and that it was this random sort of, we need somebody to do some yoga webinars, and do you know anybody? And yeah, and what an incredible fit, and how fortunate we were to have you come and join us when I was working with V2. Now with F5, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to be able to share your story a bit more and to give a little bit of inspiration and motivation to other women that are out there who are wanting to follow their passion, but maybe don't know how to quite do it yet. So let's just go into it. Manaz, a little bit about yourself. I know a fair amount about you, but not everybody does, obviously. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your background? What started you thinking, hey, I think I want to run my own business? Was it something in your childhood or?
Well, yes. Well, Dad was an entrepreneur, he's a businessman, and I feel like I come from a lineage of that. Even though they wanted to push the medical and, doctor or lawyer, typical, and I just didn't feel that was for me. But I did actually pursue in college. I was a biology major.
Oh, wow.
So for 2 years, I was like, okay, maybe I'll try this med school thing. And it just wasn't, it wasn't for me. But I have to say, as a kid, I remember, my parents really revered people who helped society. And I thought, you know what? We were kind of geared around that, just helping others. And I said, I want to help people. So I figured I'd have a worthy, purposeful life if I did something helping humanity. But then I landed in TV production. But I was born in Iran, and we came here before the revolution. Mm-hmm. And like many Iranians at that time, got stuck here. There was no plans of staying, but we ended up staying. And and I grew up in Westlake Village. I grew up near Los Angeles. And when I realized the medical thing wasn't for me, I said, you know what? I think this may be TV production. So that's where I landed first.
How did you land in TV production?
Yeah, you can't just land in it. No. If you don't have relatives in it, it's hard to just land in it, right? But it was just something I thought, you know what? There's so many options in it. I didn't want to choose one thing and be stuck with that one trade. So I thought, you know what? I'll try that. There's so many options. So I did end up working at a coffee shop when I was in college. And my next two jobs were because of that coffee shop.
Oh, okay.
So I worked in corporate production first. And then I had met a gentleman who was one of the cameramen for Jeopardy at the time. And he's the one who handed my resume to this one company that I started out with. So I worked in TV game shows for a little over 10 years. I know, how random. I wasn't very, direct about, okay, that's what I want to do. That's the kind of production I want to do. But yeah, I worked in TV game shows.
How many different game shows did you work on?
So the first ones were Jeopardy, and then Wheel of Fortune, and then a Spanish version of Let's Make a Deal. Yes, that was lovely, and I don't speak Spanish. And then I was at Price is Right. So I was with Bob Barker's last season. and Drew Carey's first season. And I said, okay, I've had enough. So that was that was when I said, time to go. But I actually had a really good experience in TV production. You know, I was mentioning to you with old school, you know, just they'd been there since the beginning. I mean, it was like a family. They were all really great, very professional, no attitudes, not too much backstabbing, you know. So it was a good experience.
Now, when you were a kid, did you ever think you'd end up in TV production? Was it anything that was, oh man, I'm watching television, I think this would be really cool to do? Or?
I think everybody does it, you know, and I think I really grew up with a lot of people in the industry. And that was kind of like, you know, I did enjoy the movies. Actually, I wanted to go into film production first, and then the TV happened. It really was about having options, because I'm not just one thing.
Right.
Just one thing makes me crazy. Like, you got to have options. You got to be adaptable. You got to, you know, I want to learn everything. Anytime I went into a company, I wanted to learn every position in that company. So that was just the way I work. Yeah.
So from TV production, because now you're really involved in mindfulness, yoga. It's a very different area. So I'm curious, how did you land there? Yeah, how did you make that leap?
So at the time, I was working, basically I did prizing for the game shows. So I was doing, and believe it or not, Jeopardy had prizes for a while. It wasn't just cash. But so I was doing Jeopardy. The other woman was doing Wheel of Fortune, and she was just feeling great and looking great. And I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm doing yoga. So I went with her to class, and I had done it years prior. And I thought, there's something to this. I like it. I'll try it again. But with her, I did this one class, and I hated it. But it felt wonderful. I felt amazing. I was calm. I was grounded. I was like, okay. So I stuck with that for a little bit. And then my boss at the time and my brother at the time were like, if you're liking it so much, why don't you teach? So I said, okay. So I did my first training, and I started teaching, and I loved it. And it kind of went back to my childhood helping people.
Right.
And I said, wow, like, what a great opportunity to be able to teach somebody, you know, just give them the skills for them to be happier and feel good and healthier, all that. I said, this is amazing. This is too easy. Like, you know, you don't have to go to medical school. You can actually just really love, you know, helping people with health. So then I was teaching and working full time. But the teaching part, I said, I would do this for free. That's how much I enjoyed it. And got to a point where I knew in the back of my mind I'd be doing my own thing at some point, you know, doing my own business. Didn't know what it's going to be. But then it all just came together. And my last day at CBS was a Friday. I opened my first studio the next day. But I was planning it out, driving on Laurel Canyon on the phone for 3 months, planning and building out the studio. Yeah. So.
Okay. Because I was going to ask you, you were saying that you knew at some point you were probably going to do your own thing, but what was it in you that made you think, okay, I'm working for somebody else, I'm in this world doing production and so forth, but what was it that made you think, but one of these days I'm going to go out on my own? What was that?
You know, I think I was lucky enough to always have positions where it's somewhat of a leadership position, and that felt, I don't want to say natural or effortless, but I enjoyed it. So I've always had that mentality, and actually all my siblings do, and I don't know if it's from mom or dad or both. So I like to implement things. I like to be creative, and I'm not a big follower, I don't feel like. And you got to follow well to be able to lead well. I do believe that too. And I was good. I was follow the rules, learn the trade, but I ultimately liked leadership positions. And again, once I found that I can help people, then it was just natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that feeling like when you realized you were about to take this incredible leap of faith? Because I'm guessing that you had not ever basically run your own business before. This was completely new, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what was that feeling like when you said, okay, I'm going to take this leap of faith, I'm going to go for it, there we go?
It was scary. It was definitely scary because I was working at CBS. You can count on that paycheck. You know, you can count on the, production schedule. You know what you're, stepping into. So it was definitely scary. But there are certain things I think we all know that when your intuition, when you're tuned into it, you know you're going to be okay. And it was just following that. Like I was looking at several different locations, one including Woodland Hills. But then when I found that first spot that I opened, I just knew that was it.
And was that in Westlake Village or Thousand Oaks?
Westlake
Westlake?
Village.
Okay.
Westlake Village, yes.
So you had an actual yoga studio.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know now it's
Yes.
mostly virtual and privates. But
Yeah. So I landed back where I grew up, Westlake Village. I grew up in Westlake Village. And that first studio, it was, and the good thing was the rent wasn't crazy because it was an industrial park.
Okay.
So that was my first studio. And then I opened a second one in Koreatown
Oh,
in Los
wow.
Angeles.
Okay.
Yes. And that was more than a handful.
Well, so what was that? So expanding, what was the impetus for that? What was the thing that said, okay, I got to expand. I got to,
My dad.
your dad? Oh, okay.
Like I remember, no, I mean, it's just things that is planted in your head, mind you. Like he, he was definitely very successful businessman and, of course, lost everything, just like a lot of, Persian stories. But anyway, his first visit to my studio, he comes in and he's like, oh, nice, good. Okay, when's the second and third and fourth? And I actually was frustrated. I was like, can I just enjoy this first one? But that was in the back of my mind. I didn't think it would happen. But Westlake Village is a very small community. A lot of businesses only last so long there. That's a part of it. And I knew that, when you're a business owner, you got to adapt. It's not going to be the same all the time, at least not in my experience, with others possibly. So you kind of grow, and then you reach a certain pinnacle, and it's like, now what? It's not going to stay there.
Right.
So I was approached, actually, by a student who was basically I don't want to say venture capitalist, but commercial real estate, purchase properties, whatever. And he said, we have these 2 properties. What do you think of opening another studio? Because he liked how I did it. And I was impeccable at the studio. You could eat off the floors at this hot yoga studio,
Oh my
mind you,
gosh.
which are usually not the cleanest. But anyway, so it was kind of an invitation. And I said, you know what? I knew that I got to change. I got to do something different. So maybe this is it. And that was another scary leap of faith, too, because that second studio was twice as big. Westlake
Whoa.
Village was 3,200 square feet. K-Town was 6,400 square feet, 3 yoga rooms. It was
whoa.
a monstrosity. Yes. Yeah.
So how many teachers did you have?
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
assuming you had.
Between Westlake and that, at one point I had about 26 or 27 teachers and, different classes. And there were certain sequences that we taught. So
Right.
it was a lot of work.
So this is very, so you talk about that leadership and all of this.
Yes.
This is a very different way of dealing with staff when it's your business,
Yes.
not just, right, you're just managing.
Oh, yeah.
How did you navigate that? What did you need to change about your approach to staff or staffing?
Yeah. It was really tough. That was the most challenging time, no doubt. My thing was with my staff, with my teachers, which represent you when you're not there, is to make sure, I mean, a lot of times in the fitness or yoga industry, a lot of the teachers self-promote. That's just what they do. And at my studio, I said, this is a different vibe. This is about all of us promoting each other. So we all have to be at a certain standard. So then when I had to spend more time at K-Town, I wanted to make sure that the students are still happy in Westlake because when you're the studio owner, you're teaching a lot of the classes, people want to come to you.
Yeah.
So that definitely took a little hit once I was at K-Town more. But it really was trying to keep all my teachers at their best, really, because ultimately that's what people are coming in for, is for those classes. So there was a lot of, talk about adapting and shifting. And you're learning every day as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So when you first started the yoga, you mentioned hot yoga. Were you doing hot yoga to start? Was that the initial yoga that you got into?
Yes.
Okay. What made, because I know you're not doing it now. What made you shift from hot yoga to the yoga that you do now?
Yes. Well, the second studio, one room was hot and one wasn't.
Okay.
So it wasn't just hot yoga. And when I opened the Westlake studio, hot yoga was not popular.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people were like, no. Now everybody turns up the heat, whether it's Pilates, whether it's Yin, whether it's everyone's turning up the heat. So then it was a little different. But now, honestly, it's really, I was very careful with how hot my studios were.
Okay.
I didn't let them get too hot because then people would get obsessed about it being really hot, and then they'd rely on the heat rather than working hard.
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many different elements to that. People like, oh, that's the hot studio. I'm like, it's not about the heat. It's
Yeah.
about your practice. And really long term, I don't think it's good. I think a little bit of warmth is good, but long term, especially when you've been doing yoga as long as I have been, ultimately you don't want to be stretching your connective tissue. You want to
yeah.
stretch your muscles. So, and not only that, I don't think yoga, should have to need anything to do yoga practice. And I think with the hot yoga and that whole where I started, it was so much on a superficial, your body looks good, but really yoga is ultimately about tapping into the spiritual practice. And when I chose to step out of not running studios anymore, it's because that's what it became about. How loud the music is, how hot the studio is. So this is not yoga. I'm not competing with this. I'm stepping back. And it was really interesting timing because that's when I wrote my book.
Okay.
And that's when I, obviously started the online where you don't need heat. You just need your yoga mat and we do our practice. Yeah.
So when did you start the yoga? Because I want to get to the book, but when did you open your first studio?
I opened my first studio, it was officially 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you had the two studios. When did you go into the second studio? When did you open that one?
It was about 6 years in.
Okay.
Yeah.
What then was there some sort of defining moment that you thought, okay, I don't want to do this and I want to write something? Now they may be completely separate, but I'm curious about both because writing a book and then following through on the book. It's one thing to say you want to write a book, right? It's another thing to follow through and then actually have it come to fruition. So I'm curious about how did those align? I'm going to stop this, I'm going to focus this, that kind of stuff.
Well, I didn't want to write a book. One of my students, he wasn't there when I made the announcement that I was closing the studios. And it was in 2018. Months later, he gets a hold of me and goes, "What's going on? What are you doing? What happened?" And I said, I need to take a step back, which is another very brave thing, stepping back, which people don't realize. It's not always about stepping forward. So I said, I need to step back. I need to regroup. I need to re-energize. And he's like, well, you need to write a book. I'm like, hey, I'm not a writer. He's like, no, you have too much to say and you have, too many good things that that need to not be quieted down at the time. So I said, okay, fine. So I started kind of dabbling. I'm like, just sit down and write. And it was actually very therapeutic. But my book is more about really kind of building a healthy lifestyle. It's more of an instructional kind of book,
Okay.
I feel like. And of course, just explaining things about yoga that people don't really know. The history of it, where it stems from, how salutations came about. That was a British thing. It wasn't an Indian thing. So just little things that I go, people have no clue about yoga and the foundation of it. So, so I kind of started writing it and finally I'm like, I don't ever like to start something and not finish it. So that I finished it and then I met you, lovely Linda, who contributed and helped me out. But it was really more about back to why I love yoga and why I love teaching. I love to serve people. I think coming from a place of service is the best job you can have, whatever that may be. And I found it through yoga, but then I said, you know what? I can't, this would be good for people who live in England or somebody I've never met. There's some good instruction, some good information in there for people to get healthier and happier, basically.
Right. Now, you also have the journal with it. What is the journal? Because I know the journal isn't just a bunch of blank pages and write your thoughts. So what about the companion journal with your book?
So the companion journal is basically a way for you to outline like a wellness routine. So we go through each of the chapters that are in the book, and then we expand upon it. And we'll touch on this in a minute, but basically, like the first chapter in the book is finding your dharma or your joy or your purpose. So the journal kind of touches on that, gives you some journal questions, and then helps to guide you through a practice. So the journal actually has QR codes.
Oh.
And you scan the QR code and it'll take you to a sequence. So, and that's kind of throughout the journal for you to build your practice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So that you can feel like you're accomplishing something.
That's right.
So you're in it.
Yes.
It's an active.
That's right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that. Well, I do the yin with you. It's my favorite.
Yes, you do.
Can you talk through, and when we were doing the webinars, we did this
Yes.
as well. Can you speak through the different types of practices? I think that's really helpful, and what they are.
Yes. So most practices that you see or yoga classes that you go to are hatha, not hatha yoga practices. And hatha is usually any physical yoga practice. So vinyasa, any hot yoga, it's either vinyasa based or, Ghosh, I want to say Ghosh, Bishnu Ghosh, but Bikram yoga, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. So that's your physical practice. Okay, then obviously meditation, you know what that is. But all of them kind of branch off from that tree of any physical yoga practice. And yoga started out as just meditation.
Right.
When you said yoga 5,000 years ago, it was just meditation for thousands of years. Then about 1,000 years ago, they realized, they being whoever, the gurus, most people can't just sit, especially in a cross-legged position, be still and meditate. So how do we do that? We got to get the pain out of the body. We got to get the inflammation out of the body. We got to get the flexibility, the mobility back so you can sit in meditation. So that's why hatha, physical yoga, was brought about 1,000 years ago, so that you can actually sit and meditate.
Wow.
So it's not even the biggest part of yoga is really meditation, if you want to say it. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know it's been around for a very long time.
Yes.
Forever, it seems like. And this is interesting because it feels like there's so much that you've leapt into, and that is really focused on the mindfulness, because you put out the newsletters as well that reminds folks. So did you start off doing those newsletters, by the way? When you first got your studios and you first had them, were you also sending out newsletters as boosts for people and your students?
Good question. Because when I opened in 2008, it wasn't what it is now. I think it was a few years in before I started doing the newsletters. But then I realized, this is really a great way to stay connected to your students or, anybody you've kind of affected. So so now I try to do my monthly newsletters. And then, of course, I try to do my weekly newsletters as well. But really, I think now more than ever, the yoga practice is so important. And I think when I made the leap from closing the studios, then when COVID hit, my friend was like, "Why aren't you teaching online?" I said, "Everyone's teaching online." And she goes, "You're not everybody. You need to teach online." So then I started teaching online. And really ever since then, I think mental health has come up more, which is good. It's part of our health, that mental health. So especially now, I like to relate everything, and all the webinars we did together at V2, no matter what the topic was, it all went back to yoga and meditation practice.
Yeah.
It all stems back to how much this can affect your life in all aspects. And, I think of Ted Lasso, soccer is life. Yoga is life. It really is, It really is. a lifestyle. It's really just about bringing all that, whatever you're learning on the mat or on that meditation cushion, to take it out into your regular life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And helping people to do that.
Right. When you were closing your studios, because this is yeah, your students. I don't want to call them like clientele or anything, because it's your students and those amazing people. When you were closing your studios, did you plan on closing the studio, working on the book after he mentioned the book, and then maybe not going back to it, or and did you think about your students? How did they react to
That
all
was
of
the
this?
hardest part, was because you create these communities.
Yeah.
This is where people go for their safe haven. That's what, that was the hardest part. That was the last thing I wanted to do, was close
Yeah.
the studios. But I am a Capricorn. I'm a goat. I make sure every step is firm before I take it. And I remember thinking about, changing location. I mean, there was bringing on, a partner, it was all these options that I kind of laid out on the table. And, again, back to intuition, the last thing I wanted to contemplate was closing the studios. And that was the only thing that felt right, as hard as it was.
Yeah.
So that was very hard. And I'm a people pleaser. I mean, especially when you come from wanting to serve people, that was the hardest part. And of course, my teachers, a lot of them were like, this was their best career they've had. They're, empty nesters, and now they have this thing. They enjoy teaching, all that. So that was really hard, but it was the right thing.
Yeah.
If you're still and you're quiet and you do your research and you lay it all out, you know what you need to do. You know it from inside. And that was really hard. So talk about like peeling off the layers. Like, we all identify with what we do, our jobs, what we represent, whatever,
Yeah.
even creating communities, even if it's a good thing, you start identifying with it.
Yeah.
And taking a step back, you're like, who am I? But I think that was such an important part of my life, is to take all that focus and bring it inward, so that you can replenish yourself to actually have even more to give when you're ready. Yeah.
Moving to the online space, what was that like for you?
Definitely a different way of teaching, right? But one of my main things, because I would do teacher trainings and I mentored teachers, one of the main things I would try to enforce with them was to learn how to communicate, speak intelligently. Don't, no fluffy yoga talk. You need to be direct. You need to be concise about how you direct people to use their bodies. So that was easy transition online. Even if I'm not seeing you, I should be able to tell you how to do a pose, let's say, the parts that you want to be careful with. So that part was effortless. And I have taught, when I would teach the more advanced classes at the studios, I would talk and teach at the same time. So that kind of got me ready for it as well. But again, I think it just forces you to focus harder on what's important, the delivery of your information.
Right.
And because most of my online community were my students at the studio, like I knew their bodies, I knew their injuries, I knew how to guide them. They knew, they had experience. So when I have somebody new, I like to be able to see them. Even though some people don't like to have their videos on, that's fine too. But I always encourage, once in a while, I always see your beautiful face. But I like to encourage like a one-on-one, just so I see what's going on with them. So yeah, so definitely different. But one of my favorite documentaries is Euro Dreams of Sushi. Right? And this guy was how old? And he's still mastering his trade.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. I love anything that forces go back to mastering your trade. Get better at it. How are you going to adapt? How are you going to get better at it? So it was good, actually. I enjoyed the challenge of it. And I do enjoy, I still miss having group classes and one-on-one, which I do once in a while. But definitely I've learned to love this as well.
Do you feel like it gives you more reach? And what I mean is that you're able to, because you now can reach across the world.
Yes. Yes. So I have a student who, she's a director and she's amazing, and she'll be in Czechoslovakia half the time, filming. And she's logging on. So my students, I take them with me on my trips and I teach from there. They've been to Mexico, to Paris with me, and they take me on their trips. Or you have people, yes, anybody can log on. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And I
gotta-
have students across the country. They're not just in California or,
Right.
regionally. They're everywhere.
yeah. What about your teachers? What do you keep in touch with your old teachers?
I keep in
or-
touch with them. Yeah, some of them, but and some of them are my students still.
Okay.
They're still part of the community, so
Okay.
that's nice. Yeah.
Now, what has, as you've been on this journey of yours, what would you say was the biggest thing that made you think, oh, whoa, this is a hurdle, this is huge, this is something standing in my way, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. And then how did you deal with it?
Let's see. I think being very present and getting out of your own head, that's huge. Of course, that's with anything. And I think challenges make you stronger, and you always feel good about yourself when you face these challenges and you get through them. You can't avoid it. When you're in business, you're on all the time.
Yeah.
And, I remember one of my teachers, she was, her career as a nurse, and then she became one of my teachers. And she's like, how did you learn how to do everything? I'm like, I didn't. You learn as you go. But every job prepares you for the next. Everything relates to everything, and you just learn as you go. You got to be comfortable with not knowing, but that's really, I think, life anyway. Learning to be comfortable with not knowing. And trusting yourself, really. Trusting, hey, I've done this, this, and this. I can do this as well. You have to be your own cheerleader. Yeah.
Right. Do you have any sort of, I don't know, sort of routines or something that you do? Okay, I know you meditate every day, right? And meditation probably helps you tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Meditation's very grounding, and I like to do it first thing in the morning before I have my coffee, because you don't want to meditate or do yoga when you have coffee. But yes, so it's very grounding. And, back to, again, taking my practice that I do on the mat and really being that practice off the mat. So, yeah, I definitely need to do my meditation. I do my yoga every day. I like swimming now. And just really, I think nature is very grounding. I love sitting outside in the morning. But definitely I would say it's the meditation and the yoga. That's
Right.
what keeps me rooted. Yeah.
That's great. Now, what's next? What's next for Manaz and Samadhi Yoga?
What is next? Well, we were talking earlier. I will get back to the retreats. I like to do the retreats. I am working on a project now, which I'm not clear on it completely. It's just another, let's try this and we'll see how it goes. And it has to do with the journal. I'll tell you more when I know more. And just really, serving my community. I try to think of ways as, instead of trying to get new students, great. It's word of mouth. That's how I get students.
Right.
It's word of mouth always. It's experience with me. But it's really just continuing to serve my community, which for me, as long as I've been teaching, my community is getting older. How do you practice with these new injuries, with the aging body? It changes. And it really just, again, it keeps it interesting.
Right.
And I think more and more I try to reinforce meditation, because meditation is very hard. A lot of people can't just sit. And meditate. So I really, honestly, I hope to continue to do what I'm doing, because I love it. It keeps me healthy, and it helps me to keep other people healthy. It's very selfish in a way, too. Yeah.
What about another book? Do you have another book in you?
I think so. Especially because I know some very talented writers.
Did you like writing the book, by the way? I mean, I know you said it was kind of cathartic and all of that, but did
Yes.
you enjoy the process?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I did enjoy it. And you feel like you're accomplishing something, when you write. It's different. And I think there's something about, I actually like to write, pen on paper. But, Yeah, and it just helps you to focus, having a focus. And again, it's like a gift, it's just another part of the practice, giving an actual gift to somebody,
Right.
getting that information on paper. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I think I have another book in me and definitely more yoga.
Well, I was going to say, I know that so you closed the studios and you moved to online, but it's not as if all you do is just the classes and that's it. You have other things that you're involved in with the yoga. Can you speak a little bit to the other stuff that you started doing as well?
Well, thanks to you. Yes, I do webinars as well. And the webinars are great because we'll basically, offer the company to, I'll offer some, topics to talk about. We talk about a topic, we go through a practice, we go through a meditation. So I definitely have been doing the webinars since what year? 2021?
2021, yeah.
2021. And I was approached about a year ago by Hoda Kotb's people. So I'm on Hoda Kotb's wellness app
That's cool.
as one of the yoga instructors. So those are the other things I do, and of course private sessions. But I think I got it all.
So the
Yes.
retreats, how many retreats have you done?
So far, I've done 2 local retreats in Santa Barbara, and they closed that property down, White Lotus. Then we did one in Kauai. So that was our last retreat. So yes, there's more retreats coming up, and I think it's really nice with the retreats, especially when you're online, because then the people you're teaching online, then you can see them in person.
Yeah.
I think that's an important part of this whole online community. So there'll be a retreat coming up.
Is there anything that when you look at the transition from Hollywood to the yoga and to where you are now with it, is there anything that you look back and say, if I could have done X, Y, and Z differently, I would have? Or not, you don't have to. But
Yeah, no, actually, I don't think that. Maybe if I thought long and hard, I'm sure I would think of something.
I think we could
But
all think of something.
We could all think of something. But, of course, my parents or my mom's always like, oh, if you didn't open that second studio, you'd still be, running. I said, I don't want to still be running that studio. I remember when I was working at CBS, one of my closest friends came in and he visited me and he saw my office and he's like, oh, you're going to retire here. I said, you just said the right thing for me not to retire here.
Right.
Like, I don't want to do the same thing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm teaching. I mean, that's different, but that changes. But I feel like I've been very honest throughout my life. Again, I think things out. I tune into my gut, my intuition, and I do what's right in that moment. And I don't have any regrets. I really don't. I don't wish, oh, I had a studio again, because believe me, for years and to this day, I still have students that go, are you going to open another one? When are you going to open another one? I'm like, not thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's just not, yeah. I feel like I want to do different things. And even when I had that yoga studio, the first one, the second year I started thinking about online. And that's when a lot of smart people started online, when nobody was doing online. And it was there. I said, the time will come when it comes, So I just like to just adapt and change and really cater to my community, whatever that is, and keep it interesting.
Now, Samadhi is all you, right?
It's
You don't have a
all me.
partner or anything like that.
Nothing, never.
When you and you mentioned that when you were figuring out, do I take a break? Do I not? Do I bring on a partner? When you even started it, did you think about having a partner, or you just said, no, I'm just going to do this?
I never thought about it, but I never thought, oh, for sure, no. It wasn't that either, but I was open to it. I really was. And believe me, when I decided to close, there were people who came up and said, I wanted to buy your studio. And I said, but it's not something to buy. It's a part of me. I can't sell my brand or my space or whatever. It just wasn't, yeah, definitely. But I do recommend doing things on your own.
Yeah.
I do. If you're clear on what you want, do it on your own. If you really feel like you need that support, then definitely something to consider. Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever go to yoga studios? So when you go out of town, and I know because you travel a lot, but do you ever go to yoga studios?
No, once in a while I do. I do, and I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
do enjoy it, and I never say anything that whatever. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about that either. But yeah, it's fun to go in and just to see. But I haven't been for a long time. But it's fun to drop in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
No.
No. I mean, you wouldn't have to say the name or
No, no,
anything, but
not at all. No, I don't. It's been years, honestly, since I probably stepped into a studio.
wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's so cool. That's so wild to think.
Right? Because again, the yoga is not about,
Right, yeah.
it's you find it in your own space.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best thing to do in your own little space in your bedroom or office,
Have you ever had a favorite place? And because I know you also like to be part of nature.
Oh yeah.
Is there a favorite natural space? And I also know how much you love Paris and all that. But is there a favorite natural place that when you think about, when I did yoga by the Seine or whatever, that was probably one of the best times in my life. And it could be in your backyard, but
Not yet, but it's nice to have the ocean sound in the background. I think when I was in Puerto Vallarta and I taught my classes from there, again, I was inside, but still, it was just being close to nature is always great. But honestly, with yoga and meditation practices, I don't always encourage being outside
yeah, yeah.
because it's a little distracting,
Yeah.
with the elements.
I
But
remember.
yeah, my favorite space is wherever that mat is. And if you don't have a mat, do it on a towel. Yeah.
Got it. Do you ever worry about the fact that a lot of yoga is cost prohibitive to a lot of people?
For sure. Absolutely. And that's why I've had the wish, and I do have the wish to be able to offer it where that's not even an issue.
Right.
So I have sent books to like battered women's shelters, those you can't really go to. But just yes, definitely wanting to provide to people who don't have it. I've taught at juvenile halls, facilities, but definitely I do believe it's for everybody, and I hope that I can offer that. It's a non-issue if somebody wants to do it, and
Right.
That's cost prohibitive. So yeah,
It's so interesting you talk about the business of yoga because it feels like an oxymoron
right.
based on what yoga is supposed to be about. But, I mean,
Yeah, like yoga competitions.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. But the business of yoga is huge now, and you can't get away from it. And I think that was the downfall of what yoga is, because a
Right.
lot of places it's just a workout. But it makes money. And a lot of yoga studios, where most of the money was in teacher trainings. They're just producing teachers just so they can make $5,000 with one head, one
Right.
person. So it's tricky. Again, it's tricky. But I think if you really truly love the trade, the teaching and offering that to somebody, it's hard to keep that level of integrity when you have to pay $6, $7, $8, $20,000 in rent,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I didn't want that. Yeah.
That's good. I want to talk about moving into the fitness space. From what I understand, and you had mentioned it to me, say that to me again regarding the restaurant industry and the fitness industry being very, very difficult.
Yes. So one of the most competitive fields, actually. So behind restaurants, as far as failure rates, fitness facilities and spaces are right behind that. I don't know the actual number, the rank, but I didn't know that clearly. But the thing also is when I opened the studio, unfortunately, it was under the Bikram name, and those studios did well because it was such a niche. It was such a specialized one sequence, specific temperature in the room. So they had better success rates.
Okay.
And that's how I started. But then I, of course, expanded and changed it and
Right.
adapted because even with Bikram Studios, a lot of them don't last.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're in the fitness space, which is very difficult, but you're working through the name, and then you've opened the second studio. Did you feel like you changed because you now were taking this to a new level You didn't just have one studio, you had two studios, a
Yeah.
giant studio. The second studio was giant.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you changed? Did you feel like you lost the essential you a little bit?
Actually, the opposite, believe it or not.
Okay.
Because I wanted to get as far away from the Beekram name, and I didn't believe that one prescription fits everybody. Because at the time when you opened as a Beekram studio, you could only teach the 90-minute class.
Okay.
That's all you were allowed. There was no contract. But I never believed that was right in itself. I said, if yoga is for everybody, that hot room is not for everybody. This sequence is not for everybody the way it's taught. So it actually inspired me to get better, to understand the bigger yoga picture, and to really keep educating myself and educate the teachers. So it actually was a growing process. So as far as that's concerned, no, I became more true to me, and that's why I changed the name to Samadhi.
Got it.
That came to me in the middle of a 10-day silent retreat, and I was like, that's it. You know, it's that optimal level that you want to get to where it's, you know, the clarity, basically, Samadhi, seeing clearly. So I changed, I grew, and I lost a lot of diehard Bikram, you know, students, but that was okay, because that's never been my mindset, is closed. I wanted my teachers to be educated, researched, and not just know one thing and just be good at that one thing. So it was important to really stay true to me, to offer it to everybody. At the time, you're not allowed to offer it, you know, kids yoga. I was like, that's ridiculous. So it became more me as I was in the business longer. So that part was good, because I don't know any other way to be, honestly. Yeah.
Right. When you started doing the fitness, do you wish somebody had advised you a certain way? Because I'm curious, if somebody out there is watching this and says, you know, I'm interested in starting a fitness business and so forth, what advice would you give?
Back to really enjoying and knowing your trade. Knowing it, enjoying it, and really, again, coming from a place of service. Do you really want to help people, or do you just want to make money? I think that is going to be a part of it too. And I think because of my stamina to last as long as I did, to run a business the way I did, it's because it was from the heart. You know, I really cared. And I think, you know, a lot of people, let's say they want to get into their own business because they just want to make money, or they just want to be their own boss. There's so much more to it, and you will burn out even quicker. So, yeah, I didn't have that much advisement. I just knew that it felt right. It felt like this is how I can contribute. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, it's more about the fitness space.
Yes.
The fitness space itself. Let's say I want to get into the fitness business.
Yes.
What makes that so different than something else?
Oof. Yeah. I would advise, I don't want to take away anybody's dreams, but to really think it out, think about what kind of environment you want to create, and what you want to do with it. Like, really map it out in your head. And if you want to just do it as a hobby, you know, be clear about that as well. So I don't think the fitness business is, again, something like yoga that's really spiritual and connected and grounded. It shouldn't be about the money. Yeah. But unfortunately, a lot of yoga teachers, too, that's the only way you're going to have a career in yoga, is if you start a business, you know, or you're an influencer, or whatever the new world does.
Right.
But, yeah.
Why is the fitness? I mean, what is it about the fitness industry that you think makes it so difficult?
I think there's so many fads.
Okay.
There's always something new. People get bored easily. People want to be entertained. They want the new thing. They want the next better thing. Yoga is the oldest, and it's not just about fitness, but it's the oldest and so rooted. And I think people are just distracted, you know?
Yeah.
And this is about not being distracted.
Yeah.
It's about tuning inward, and it's so unique. So the fitness, again, like, there's so many new things. People are like, have you heard of this? Have you heard of that? No. But it ultimately comes down to the same thing. There's some element. And if you look at a yoga practice, it has all these elements these new fads have. You know, like, you know, your metabolism or inflammation. Inflammation's the big thing. That's always been a part of yoga. practice is fighting inflammation in the body.
Right.
So again, people are just finding new ways to market it. You know,
Yeah.
and yoga is one of the oldest ways of staying fit on a physical and mental and emotional level.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would want to share before we go into the rapid five?
The rapid five. No, I just honestly, I just want everybody to try yoga and meditation. That's it. That's always been my mission. Like it is for everybody.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't believe how many times people go, "Oh, I'm not flexible," or "It's not for me," or "I can't sit still." Well, that's everybody, but it really just is about, especially our world is so noisy right now. That is your only place you're going to find peace. It really is in your practice. And once you do it, you understand it. And
Right.
it's not easy. That's why people don't stay with it. They don't stick to it. So it's a commitment.
With yoga, what would be your advice to people starting out? Is there something that you would tell them to keep in mind or not be intimidated by or anything like that? Because you're right, it can be very intimidating. And when you're in a studio also, you start to feel like you want to either be in the back or in the, but what would be your advice to somebody starting out?
I would say find the best teachers, because that teacher is going to affect your experience. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't start out with the right teacher or a good teacher. At least a teacher that's loving and inviting, has good open energy and is really there for you, not to perform, but really there for you. I think that's really key, is having that right teacher. And yes, if you go in a group class, stay in the back and listen. And unfortunately, a lot of classes are not well instructed. So whatever they might be doing, make sure you're listening to your body. Your body is the main teacher. What the teacher's saying is secondary, really.
Right. Okay, I like that. So nothing else you want to... Is there anything on the horizon that you want to make sure people know, but you've got, or we'll come back to you. I mean, because we'll definitely come back to you.
Like I said, there's something with that journal I'll be doing. So
Uh-huh.
once I have a better idea, I'll speak more about that.
Okay, I won't poke you anymore.
Yeah.
I'll let you go on it. Well, now we're going to move to the rapid five.
Okay.
So these are just little things, give a little insight into
Okay.
you, and you don't have to think too hard about it. But first one, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A race car driver.
A race car driver?
Yes.
Did you watch
I
like a lot
did.
of Formula
No,
One? Or
I
anything?
just was a tomboy. I wanted to be a race car driver. As crazy as that sounds.
Have you ever
Yes.
driven a race car?
I went to the BMW racetrack
Uh-huh.
in Palm Springs, and it's like a test drive racetrack thing where they teach you how to slide, or I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, it's like the
Drift?
Porsche experience down in Carson. Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
do that one?
No, my brother does that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but you do the drifting thing. And I remember I went with my friend who's the worst driver in the world. And she did better than I did. And I was like, what? How is that possible? Because she was really listening. But no, it was just, I was a tomboy. I liked cars. I've always liked cars. I wanted to drive. I just was, I grew up with my brother.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Wait, okay, okay, we're gonna move away 1 second. What always makes you smile?
Oh, God. You make me smile, Linda. Besides Linda, yes, I would say Mom's cooking. Mom is the best Persian cook there is. And specifically, I would say, which you'll probably guess, is the tahdig,
Oh
the
my
crunchy
gosh.
rice. That always makes me smile.
Okay,
Yes.
so I had gone to your place because we'd been there helping somebody out with a one-on-one, and I
Yes.
went to support, and you had that amazing Persian cookbook right there, and I bought it because of that. And one of these days, I'm going to put it on this bookshelf because it's cool. I don't bring it because I cook out of it all the time, but oh my gosh, yes, okay, I believe it. And plus the lentil soup that we're
Ooh, the
getting all,
best.
but that was so good. What do you know as an adult that you wish you had known as a kid?
I would say you don't need to be so serious. I think I was a really serious child.
Oh,
Like I had to
wow.
figure everything out, And you never figure anything out, is the truth, really. Once you do, then you're ready to go to the next world, I think. But I think it would be that. I was a serious kid. Yeah. I was like the youngest, but the least, I mean, I was playful, but I was the most serious one. Yeah.
Wow. There's four of you, is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
the
the fourth.
baby.
You're the
Yeah.
baby. All right. I'm the baby too. I get it. What's your guilty pleasure?
Ooh, right now?
Yeah.
Should I advertise for them? Bridgerton. That is my guilty pleasure right now. And of course, gelato. But yes, I know, I'm embarrassed. Yes, I'm watching Bridgerton right now. Yes.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. Do you know, I've never seen it.
Oh,
I've never seen one episode. I have no idea anything about. I mean,
production value, it's beautiful for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Bridgerton. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. And the last one is cat or dog.
dog. Definitely dog.
Okay.
I like cats too, but dogs.
Do you have a dog right now? You don't?
No,
No.
no.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm a dog person.
You're a dog person?
Yes, big dogs, not little ones.
Got it. Understood.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when we get you a puppy, we need to make sure it's.
No, I like
a-
puppies, but I like
No,
big
but we need to
dogs.
make sure it'll be like a
big
giant,
dog.
like a Great Dane
Yes.
puppy. It'll grow. Okay, that's perfect.
That's right.
Well, Manaz, this is great, and I do want to make sure that we come back to you and find out what you're doing.
Thank you for
Follow
having
up on
me.
you. Yeah, thanks for
Again, I was so
hanging out.
honored when you told me
Yeah.
that you're doing this and I'd be your first guest. So thank you for having me as always, Linda.
Yeah, well, this has been a pleasure, and I'm really excited to come back and see what's going to happen with whatever you're going to do with the journal, and what maybe the next book will be,
Yeah.
and all the rest that's going to happen with the yoga.
Well, thank you, Linda. Starting a new business, basically, and I think there are 5 things to keep in mind when you want to start a business. It's my first chapter. It's finding your dharma, finding your joy. What makes you feel good? I think that's a very good place to start, and really have an experience with it. I know a lot of teachers would just become a teacher and want to open a business. Have experience. Put the hours in. Know your audience, of course. Know who you're catering to. Who do you want to serve? And come from a position of service always, especially in a retail space, you want to have a community. You want to create that community. So come from a position of service. How are you going to serve the community, humanity as a whole? And the last thing I would say, and this kind of melds into the others, is would you do it if you didn't get paid? So that's a really good place to start. If you really enjoy what you're doing, success is going to be there no matter what, and it's not necessarily monetarily. So that's my BizFit Minute.
I really appreciate you hanging with us and being the first guest. It means so much. This has been fantastic. And thank you, everybody, for joining us in our inaugural little episode. This has been great. Please, please, Manaz's book is really fantastic, and the accompanying journal is really active and very helpful. It's called Finding Home, A Path to Emotional Stability and Self-Healing. I love that title. It's so good. You can find it on Manaz's website, which is samadhiyoga.com. It's spelled S-A-M, like Mary, A-D-I yoga.com. Go there. You'll also see an opportunity to really check out the yoga practices that she presents. There's Pilates that goes on there. It's just a really great experience. So please check it out. The book is a great read, and the journal is really, really helpful. Thanks again.